You are listening to the Critical Mass Radio Show, Orange County's business talk show, focused on exploring topics of interest to CEOs who are leading middle market companies. With your host, Richard Franzi.
Hi, everyone. I am Dr. Shawn Andrews. Welcome to the Critical Mass Radio Show and podcast. This radio show focuses on women in business, and I'm thrilled to say that this is our second show, and I'm thrilled to invite Janeane Lombardi to our show today. So welcome, Janine.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Fantastic. So Janine founded J9 Leading Solutions to help leaders live better lives and lead more effectively. In her business, she provides leadership training, speaking, and consulting services. She shares proven strategies that she used to achieve her life and career ambitions with an emphasis on leading an integrated life. Janine is here today to tell us more about her career and women in business. So welcome, Janine.
Thank you, Shawn.
So let's start off with tell us about your professional path and what led you to where you are today.
Sure. It wasn't the one I envisioned when I went to college, certainly. And I think it's important. I like to share that I grew up in an entrepreneurial family. My grandfather started a bakery, and my dad ran the bakery, and my mom did the books, and my sister and I sold the cookies and the donuts. And so I grew up in an environment, watching my dad manage and lead people. And, sometimes a seed gets planted that you don't even realize. And it certainly taught me about a work ethic, too, that I carried with me. But I thought I wanted to be a teacher. And then my dad, this is the 80s, he thought I should study computers, which was pretty smart on his part at the time, but it wasn't for me. And so I ended up studying communications and journalism. But when I finished my degree, I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to be a journalist. I didn't want to work at a newspaper. And so there I was, reading at the time, the lawn ads. And I ended up at a company that really was a great fit for me. I spent 18 years at the Merit companies and had, while I was there, about 8 different jobs. So I had one of those, what we call in career development, a lattice career, where I spent time in operations and client servicing, and then over on the HR and the training and development side. And so I went back and forth during my time there and really amassed a lot of skills that I could take with me. And then, life kind of reaches a different stage, and I had a young child, and some things were changing in my personal life. And I decided to take a leap and start my own business back in 2008. So I'm sitting here celebrating my 10th year in business independently, and really taking all the things I was doing in that corporation to help develop people and talent and leaders, and doing that with lots of organizations now. And so it's been a unpredictable path that I hadn't foreseen, 20 something years ago, but one that I'm so thrilled that I chose to embark on and follow.
Well, congratulations on your 10-plus year anniversary, your work anniversary. That's wonderful. Most businesses, as you may know, statistics out there, when you start on your own, most businesses last 3 to 5 years. And if you go on after that. So to be in your 10th year, you must be doing something right.
Thank you. I know. I was really happy to kind of beat that milestone that was lingering out there. And really the business has evolved. There's a similar set of services that I started with, but kind of the distribution of how and where I spend my time has shifted over the 10 years. And part of why I chose that entrepreneurial path really was to have a certain amount of freedom and flexibility in both my life and in my professional choices of how I spend my time. Sometimes when we're in an organization, we have less control over that. And so it certainly has served those needs that I had hoped it would, where, my son was starting kindergarten at the time. I started my business, and now he's, studying for the ACT and getting ready to apply for colleges this summer. So it's really served me to be, and when I talk about an integrated life, that's what I mean. I've been able to grow and learn and contribute to my community and professionally expand, but also have a life that is meaningful to me, and to be able to be the parent I wanted to be. And achieving that has been a journey, and it's been not always a straight line or easy either. And that's some of what I try to work with my clients around. How do they integrate their life in a way so they don't feel torn apart or compartmentalized in what they do?
Yeah. And as I'm listening to you, I'm also thinking what you've done, your path, is very applicable for women in business, because many women desire to have an integrated life and have the flexibility, to live their life or raise their children, what have you. But Yeah, and many, what you had the corporate life, you got your experience, sounds like in many different departments, and then you decided to water that entrepreneurial seed that you had in you to grow into what you're doing today. So you've designed your life in a way that sounds like it fits for you.
It does, and it is about making choices, right? And we all have that ability to make choices, and so it's important for us to stop in our lives now and again and ask, am I where I want to be? And if not, what choices should I make or can I make to do something that will lead me there? And so I know people feel stuck often where they are in their circumstance and what they're doing, but we really do have a lot of choice and, help. And part of how I try to help people is to uncover and discover what their choices are and what the opportunities and possibilities could be. And it's very liberating for people when they realize, oh, I can do this. And I suggest people approach things as an and. You don't have to throw out your old life to get this new one, right? It's like, how can you add pieces, take a piece away, add a new piece, and build something that fits your life as it is now, right? Because it's always changing as we age, as our family circumstances change, as our professions change. So what we needed at one point might not be what we need now, but we don't always stop to delineate and to figure out what's different and what needs I might need to fulfill now that I didn't before.
Yeah. Well, actually, that's a perfect segue. So tell us about what you do at Janeane Leading Solutions.
Sure. So I always think it's easiest to share some examples. So I work both at the individual level as an executive coach. So an example there, I work with one of the biggest employers here in Orange County, and they have a really progressive program where when they hire an executive in the company, they receive a coach for a year to help them accelerate their success. A lot of money goes into these executive searches, and usually these high-level jobs are expected to come in and perform right away. And so the company recognized that, providing a coach out of the gates as part of their package really helps their leaders. So that's one field that I work in and coach. And a lot of times I'm advising around they'll come in and they might need to reorganize a division, or they might need to make some personnel changes. And so, and there's almost always change management type activities that are needed, and a focus on employee engagement. So I'll work at the individual level with an executive. Then I'll also work with businesses at the team level. So perhaps I've had two of these just in the last month or so, where the groups have worked together, the executive teams have worked together for 8, 9, 10 years. But that doesn't mean they're working effectively together anymore, right? And so some of the bad habits and the dysfunction that have existed in the group have kind of reared themselves in a way where their CEO said, hey, we need to spend some time as a group to work more effectively together. So I help groups work more effectively together. So I'll come in and facilitate and more of a group coaching situation on how people can work better together as a team. Okay. So that's another kind of piece. And then I still do and love to do traditional delivery, face-to-face training for leadership development. So I have another very large global client. So they have 65,000 employees across the globe, and I'll do multi-day programs around leadership, teams, communication, influence, change, different things like that. So kind of a traditional corporate university where I'll actually deliver content there. So those are kind of three big ways that I serve in my role. And interestingly, sometimes I'll start with the client in one of those areas, and it'll lead to a need in the other areas. So they're all pretty complementary.
Mm-hmm. Well, and they're all so distinct as well. The executive coach, the one-on-one, and I think most people get that.
Yeah.
And then the team coaching, we don't always hear.
Right.
A lot of people aren't out there doing that.
Yeah.
And then even fewer people are out there doing multi-day programs. So, so that's really unique. So what type of companies do you generally work with, would you say? I mean, do you have a specific niche that you go after, like tech, for example, or healthcare? Or
Well, it's been interesting. So my background was very narrow when I started, because I had been in one industry, in the real estate and development industry. And so I really wanted to get a broader cross-section, and so I actually sought different. So I've done, financial services and retail and all sorts of different, and because the work that I do, it's the same. Leading, being a leader, and leading in an organization, the type of company organization is kind of inconsequential in the whole situation. So I haven't looked at certain industries particularly. And it's really interesting to me because I feel like I've got these couple really giant clients that provide a lot of repeat work. And then I work a lot with companies that are in that 200 to 500 range, right, where they may not have an internal person doing leadership development or an internal person, an HR business partner that can coach people. And so they'll bring me in and I'll work with their teams or do some coaching and that sort of thing. And that's largely been built through my personal network of, initially when I started the business, getting out and, speaking, interacting in groups, professional trade groups, and, speaking to groups and getting involved. And then people started using me and then referring me. And that's where if you can get over that 3-4 year hump and get that kind of brand and reputation out there, things really kind of took off from there.
Yeah. Now, do you focus only on companies in Southern California, or do you travel around?
Yeah. So I primarily, there's so much business here between LA, Orange County, and San Diego County. I've done most of my work here. My one client that is international, I travel for them. And so that's enough travel for it to be fun. I've got to go to Canada next month, and I'll go to the East Coast the month after that. So enough for it to be fun. But again, balancing my need to be with my son and not spend most of my time on the road. As I look ahead, that could change, but I've had ample opportunity right here, and so I've kind of chosen to embrace it.
Yeah, that's actually a nice perspective to have as well. Is we always think that where we live is a very small window of opportunity, and there's so much more out there. But yet that's not what you found in Orange County.
No, right? And I want to share this too, because what I have found too when I started and reached out to people. And I come from a place of, I think there's plenty for everybody, right? And so even people doing the type of work that I do, chose to mentor me and help me get going. And even when they were busy, make referrals to me when I was starting. And I've tried to pay that forward and pay that back too with other people now that approach me as the more senior person, 10 years in my business. And I try to help them in that way too. And because there is just plenty out there. There's so much work for all of us. And, the more we can help each other get better at what we do, we all help. As a group, we help each other, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool. And I feel really blessed to have received that. And then I feel in a great position to be able to share it now with other people.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
So you're the pay it forward.
Yeah.
But I have also experienced that myself. I'm only in year 5 of being an entrepreneur, so you're double what I am. But I was actually pleasantly surprised with that entrepreneurs, like you said, even in the same space, are so supportive of each other. And the mantra that a rising tide lifts all boats.
Yes.
It really does.
Yes.
Because like you said, if you have the mindset of there's enough work out there for everybody and we're not in competition and support each other in every way we can, that's, we're all going to benefit from that.
Right. Well, even a quick story, how I landed the biggest contract I have now, the one where I do all that executive coaching. A mutual friend introduced the two of us a few years ago. I needed an additional facilitator for a large project I was doing, so I brought her in to help me. That's how we first got to know each other. And then when she was designing this program for this company and needed to start to build her, kind of group of coaches, she reached out to me. And so, at one point I'm helping her, and the next point she's helping me, and, we're all the better for it. So
yeah, fantastic example.
Yeah.
So you're well established. You do several different things. So where do you want to go from here? What are your aspirations and goals for your company?
Well, I'm always trying to evolve too. I feel like how I can best serve my clients is to be growing myself. And so last year I kind of took a step into the digital arena and made and produced my first online video leadership program for purchase. So, there's only so much of me to go around. And now I have a program that someone in Ohio or Kansas can purchase and walk themselves through. It's self-directed on how to be a more effective leader by building better relationships with people. I think there's a lot that we've lost around relationship building, and so I'm trying to give people some tools and ways that they can apply that. So that was a step I took last year, and I have a lot more to do with that product now. It's kind of my first product, and so marketing and developing and selling that is kind of the next evolution of it. Creating it was one thing, getting it out there is another. So that's something I'm going to do more work on, and then. My 2019 vision and goal is to actually host multi-day retreats for women that I'm kind of calling the, pressing the pause button to help them have time and space to reset and refocus their personal and professional life. So it's a little bit less leadership development focused and more more of how to achieve that integrated life for working professional women. And, going up to the mountains and doing some yoga and some hiking as part of all this, but really just creating some space. And so I'll be hosting the first one this summer, and I'm really excited about that. I've got a partner, Louise Keefe, who's helping me with that. And so that's something I literally wanted to do from the day I started my business. And now I feel like I've gotten to the place where I have a large enough network to draw the people in and the experience to deliver an amazing program for people.
So that sounds really awesome. I love it. I love it. Yeah, can I come? Exactly. Yeah. I'll have to practice my yoga poses. But so who would be like the ideal target for that, or what types of individuals would be most interested in your multi-day retreat?
Well, I think one particular target we have are people who are going through a change, right? Okay. So a transition of some point, and it could be professional, right? Maybe they've just gotten a new promotion and now they're in a new role, and they're a little bit uncertain about their footing and where they're at and how they're going to go forward. But also, a lot of times, the transition comes on the personal side: a divorce, a child going off to college, having to now suddenly care for a parent. So some significant shift outside of your work happens, and it impacts your whole life. And how are you going to deal with that? And so, it's partly helping people build resilience and understanding that these changes are opportunities often. So that would be one set of folks who something's going on, right? Something's shifting and they're feeling overwhelmed by it or stuck by it in a way. But another could be people are looking forward and wanting to create some change. They just don't know what it is yet. So they could be driving change, and we'll give them some tools and ways to think about that and creating that for them. So those are a couple of the primary. We've gone round and round and round the audience, and our vision is that it would be folks that have worked in a professional environment 10, maybe 15 years. But, I recently did a cohort, and I had two 26-year-olds who were amazing in there. And I had a 50-some-year-old COO in the group, and at first I was like, "Oh, is this going to work?" And it was just amazing. That was more of a 10-month program and more leadership focused. But that idea, so I'm trying to be open now to see where the interest is and who comes in. And I found for myself attending different conferences and things like this too. There's just a moment. You're at a place and you see the thing and you're like, that's what I need now. And people, you just know of all the choices out there, this is the thing for me. So I'm excited to put it out there and see what the response is and approach it from that organic place of, I want it to be what people need. So I have a plan, but the participants really will inform a lot of what we do as well.
Yeah. Help drive it.
Yeah.
So you mentioned, going to conferences, finding out what's out there. So one of the, I guess, potential downsides of being an entrepreneur is that sometimes you feel like you're in a silo. So where do you go to find new perspectives and insights on some of the challenges that folks face in your industry? Yeah.
So when I started, it was, from what I see, a traditional professional groups, right? So the local one here was the Association of Talent Development. And I went there, I met people, I volunteered, I served ultimately on the board of directors, that whole thing. Oh. But then I started to have areas of study that interested me, and a lot was around brain science. And so then I started going to the conferences for the Neuroscience Leadership Institute. And then from there, I learned about the Wisdom 2.0 conference up in the Bay Area, which is around tech. And, so I love to learn, and so it's easy for me. I'm always, getting emails and researching different organizations, and I pick something every year, and I try to pick different ones. There are some that I'll repeat and go to, but I like to, you just meet different people. And in fact, my partner, Louise, that I mentioned that I'm doing these retreats with, I met her at one of the Neuro Leadership Institute conferences for 5 or 6 years ago. That's where we met.
Yeah. So, yeah. I've been following their work for a while, but I have not been to a conference. Yeah. So good for you. So you pick different conferences with different focus every year that's fantastic.
Yeah. It keeps it fresh and interesting and a new crowd of people.
Yeah, absolutely. So what advice, so this actually fits perfect question for you since you're looking to lead a women's retreat. So what advice would you offer women in business today?
So what I have been finding, and I want to help try to inspire people around is confidence. That even the women that I coach at the senior most levels of organizations still waver in their certainty of their their place and that they deserve to be there, and they hesitate in speaking up. And I shouldn't be surprised, but I am, and I don't want it to continue, right? And so a lot of the work I'm doing in the coaching space with women particularly is around confidence, because there's a lot of great work out there. In your book, The Power of Persuasion, you talk around different things that we do as women that hold us back. And one of the things that holds us back is our belief that competence is all that matters. And really, confidence is as important as competence, right? And really the message I would really want to leave your listeners is that we need to have self-belief. Women need to believe in themselves and believe in their abilities, and to stop apologizing and to stop not taking the opportunities that they're qualified enough for. They don't have to be, Hewlett-Packard has a famous study and found that women, they only applied for promotions if they felt they could check all the boxes for the criteria, where the males would apply if they only had 60% of the boxes checked, right?
Yes.
So this idea that, we need to stand in our strength and we need to believe in ourselves, and really, if our lack of confidence can hold us back in our career and in our life too, right? And so what I say to the women that I'm working with is you need to be more decisive and more action-oriented and more risk-taking, and be okay with failure. We tend to ruminate on our failures much more than men do. They'll take their failure and they'll move on, and we need to do that more. We need to learn, and that's what resilience is, right? Resilience is facing something difficult, a challenge, and adversity, learning from it and moving on. And so, that's the other space that I think is connected to confidence, is resilience and our ability to do that.
Yeah, and another word for that is grit.
Yes, Angela Duckworth.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So and actually that book was so popular because women by nature have grit, and and having to just navigate work and life and all the different things that we often juggle. Right. And so, grit and resilience comes into play. Yeah. I think I totally agree with you. I think it all starts with confidence. And for women in particular, women are harder on themselves than men are, especially with negative self-talk and self-doubt. And so, you can't have enough confidence.
Right. And so we have to, it's about having the tools to change our script, right? We have these negative internal scripts, or if you want to call them gremlins, sometimes that negative self-talk, and we need to learn how to, when they start getting loud and holding us back, how to, quiet them and put them aside, and to step into our own strength, and our confidence will grow, right? And it is something, going back to the brain, we have neuroplasticity, which means we can change our brain structure. And so confidence is something you can change your brain structure around, right? And so there's hope in this for people that maybe are out there currently feeling that they have a lot of self-doubt and they're not confident, even though they might have a significant role or title and job. But there's a lot of insecurity. And so how to master that and be more, and mastery also kind of connects, though, to the competence piece, because the more we can master something, then we are more confident that we can do something. But I think perfectionism is one of the greatest confidence killers there is, right? That we feel this need that everything has to be perfect before we can step in or lean into something, where, just take the step and develop the rest of what you need along the way. Don't just stand there, right?
Yeah.
And don't sit quietly.
Yeah.
Speak up and have your voice heard. And so that's the drum I want to beat, right, for the next decade as I'm working with women in their careers.
Yeah, I love that. I love how you just articulated that beautifully. And take the step and figure it out later. It's okay if you don't know steps 5, 6, and 7. Right. At least start. Right. Take step 1, step 2. That'll give you the confidence and momentum. We often get stuck thinking so much about it that we never take that first step.
Exactly.
So, well said.
Yeah. Thank you.
So, how can the listeners listening to this today get in touch with you, Janine?
Well, so the simple way is you just Google me, right? Google Janeane Lombardi, and it'll send you right to my website. But the website is J9 Leading Solutions. You can find me there as well. And if you want to email me, it's my name, Janine, at J, and the number 9, Leading Solutions, with an S on the end, .com. And if you email me and you're interested in my online program, I'll be happy to provide you a listener discount that I can attach to that. So visit the site, check it out, and then let's get in touch if you're interested in learning more about what services I can help and provide.
Okay. Yeah. And it was J, the letter J, and the number 9.
Correct. Okay. Which, that's my name. It's spelled Janine. That's my grandfather's nickname from when I was about 8 years old.
Oh, I get
stuck.
It. I get it. J9. That makes sense
there
now.
There you go, right? I know.
I love it.
Hey, it's hard when you're picking domain names. They're all taken up. Right?
Well, fantastic. So you've been a great guest today. Thank you for joining us on the Critical Mass Radio Show and Podcast. Everyone out there, I hope you've enjoyed this. Lots of great advice that you could take and run with. And with that, we'll see you next time. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. You have been listening to Critical Mass Radio Show Business Talk Show, focused on exploring topics of interest to CEOs who are leading middle market companies. With your host, Richard Franzi.